Hi everyone, this is lesson 7 for algebra, and this is the application section. So I'm going to do it in 2 parts. I'll do part 1 today, and then part 2 will be in your next lesson. So we are on page 13 and in your booklet, and we're covering page 13, 14, and 15 in this lesson. So to start off, there's a little bit of a warm-up. So simplifying, how do you simplify this expression? You're going to multiply the 4 with the -2 and then by the 3, which gives us 24, -24. And then you're going to look at what letters we have here. So we've got some x's and we have some y's. So for the x's, you're going to add the exponents. The first x has a 3 on top and the second x has a 1. So 3 plus 1 is 4. And then for the y's, we're going to add the exponents on the y. So we have a 2 plus a 5. Okay, so there it is, simplified. Now we're going to use that idea for finding a simplified expression for the area of this following shape here. All right, so to find the area of a rectangle, we're going to multiply length times width, and I've just called the shorter side width and the longer side length. So there's my equation here. Area equals length times width. So now I'm replacing my L with the expression in the word problem. So we've got 3ab plus 12 for our A, and that will get multiplied by the width, which is 4a squared. And I'm just going to flip my 2 brackets here. I'm going to put that monomial first, just because I've taught you how to multiply a monomial by a binomial by having it in the front. So it's something that you are familiar with. So I've just flipped them here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this 4a squared by everything inside the bracket. So it's going to get multiplied by the 3ab, and it will also get multiplied by the 12th. And that's what I'm showing in this line here. In the following line, now I'm going to multiply my 2 monomials, kind of similar to what we did up here, right? Multiplying our monomials together, but we've only got 2 in this case here. So 4 times 3 is 12. And then we're multiplying the a squared by the a, where we add the exponents. So that's going to be a cubed, and then there's 1b. And same thing over here. 4 times 12 is 48, and then a squared. And now this ending is different than that ending, so we can't go any further. That is the end. It's simplified as far as we can go. Okay, our first example, first word problem. Todd recently graduated from high school and has started his own landscaping business. To run his business effectively, he must keep track of the weekly payroll for his employees. His crew works the same number of hours each week, except in bad weather. The following table shows how each employee is paid. So there's Todd, he's the owner, and he pays himself $600 a week. There's a truck driver that he employs, and he gets paid $10 an hour plus $150 for expenses. The experienced assistant gets paid $14 an hour, and the student laborer gets paid $8 an hour. Okay, so I have that information up here so we can refer to it as we're answering the questions. So if X represents the number of hours worked each week, write an algebraic expression to represent the weekly earnings for each employee. Okay, so we've got another chart here. Todd, it doesn't matter how many hours he works, he is going to get paid $600 each week, no matter what, because that is his salary for the week. The truck driver will get paid $10 an hour plus $150 expenses. So the X is the number of hours, so it's 10 times X, all right, plus 150. All right, so if he works 1 hour, it would be 10 times 1 plus 150. For $160. The assistant will be very similar. The assistant works $14 an hour, but they don't have any extra money for expenses. So it would just be 14 times X, and the student laborer will get paid $8 an hour, so that is 8 times X. Write an algebraic equation that can be used to determine the weekly payroll. Okay, so we've got our algebraic expressions for each of the assistants. And I just realized we skipped over B part. B part said, do all the expressions contain X, Y, or Y not? So you can see the last three contain an X, but the first one doesn't. The reason for that is because Todd's wage does not depend on how many hours he works. It is $600 regardless of how many hours he works. Whoops. Okay, so no, Todd's earnings do not depend on a certain number of hours, therefore his expression does not include an X. He will be paid $600 no matter how many hours he works. Okay, going back to C, we want to add all of those up. Okay, so sum of all the salaries is what the weekly payroll is going to be. Okay, so all I've done is taken all the equations we had on the previous page and added them all up in one row. So there's Todd here, this is the truck driver, and then the 14x is the assistant, and the 8x is the student laborer. Can this equation be simplified? Explain. Okay, can we simplify this expression? Right? Yes, because we can combine the terms that depend on the x. Similarly, the terms that do not depend on the x. So we can combine the 10x plus the 14x plus the 8x. Right? It's collecting like terms. And we can combine together the 600 and the 750 to simplify that expression. Occasionally, the crew must work over 40 hours in a week. When this happens, they're paid time and a half for all the hours above 40. Todd does not pay himself overtime. Calculate the hourly overtime rate for the other three employees. Right? So time and a half means if you work $10 an hour for under 40 hours, as soon as you work over 40 hours, those extra hours will pay you an extra 50%. Okay, 50% of $10 is $5. So time and a half for the truck driver would be $15 an hour. Todd, I've got slashes through Todd's because he is not going to get overly rate. He is going to get $600 no matter what. So the truck driver, right, will be 10 times 1.5, which is $15 an hour. And then you can do similar calculations for the assistant and for the laborer. So 14 times 1.5 is 21, and 8 times 1.5 will be $12 an hour. So those are the rates that are paid for every hour above the 40. That's the basic rate. Question F, if X represents the regular hours worked up to 40 and Y represents overtime hours over 40, write the expression that represents the weekly earnings for each employee. And then write a simplified equation that represents the total weekly payroll, including overtime. Okay, so we've got another chart here. The regular hours are represented by X, and those are the regular rates here. Overtime hours, we're going to use a different letter for because they're going to be different rates. So for the truck driver, for example, the truck driver would get paid $10 times X, so those would be the hours of 40 and under. And then to that, he would get paid $15 an hour for anything over that. So if he works an extra 2 hours over 40, so if he works 42, he'll get paid 10 times 40, his $400, plus he will get paid 15 times 2 for the extra 2 hours, so an extra $30, plus his $150 that he got paid for his expenses. The assistant would get paid $14 an hour for the first 40 and then 21 for the next any hours that are over 40. And then the laborer would get 8 times X plus 12 times Y. And then if we're going to answer G, to write a simplified equation that represents the total weekly payroll for overtime, what we want to do is we want to take these equations and add them all up. So I just went ahead and added the equation for the simplified equation that represents the total weekly payroll, including overtime. All right, so I've taken these equations and wrote them all in one row, and then I collected like terms. Okay, so for the x's, you can add the 10x plus the 14x plus the 8x, and that gives us 32x. And then for the y's, I added 15y plus 21y plus 12y and got 48y. And then the 600 actually should be added to the 150. I forgot about that, so I'm just going to edit it should say 750. There we go. So there's your simplified expression. Next question, we've got Meredith has a summer job at a fitness club. She earns $5 bonus for each student membership and $7 bonus for each adult membership that she sells. Identify the variable. So with these word problems, you should have let statements. So let S represent the number of student memberships that she sells, and then let A represent the number of adult memberships that she sells. Okay, and the money she makes is going to depend on how many of each of those she sells. So write an equation that describes Meredith's total bonus. Okay, so her bonus is going to be $7 times the number of adult memberships plus $5 times the number of student memberships that she sells. Okay, we've done that. So C. How much will Meredith's bonus be if she sells 10 adult memberships and 12 student memberships? So now you can go ahead and replace the A with the number of 10, the adult memberships, which is 10. So replace the A with 10 and replace the S with 12. Multiply 7 by 10 and 5 times 12, and then add them together. So if she sells those memberships, she will earn $130 for her bonus. And you should have a therefore statement. So therefore Meredith's bonus will be $130 if she sells 10 adult and 12 student memberships. And that's it. So your homework is going to be numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5 that are listed here. I'm going to attach these to the Google post as well, so you can see it there. I'll just start you off quickly on the first question here. What you want to do is you're going to expand and simplify. So you want to take whatever letter or value number is in front of each bracket, and then it gets multiplied by everything inside the bracket. So the negative y gets multiplied by y squared, negative y gets multiplied by 5y, and negative y gets multiplied by the 4. And then you'll do the same thing with the second bracket. It would be negative 3 times negative 3y cubed, negative 3 times 2y squared, and negative 3 times negative y. And I've got it on this page here. Okay, written out. Right, so when you multiply the y, negative y by each of these terms, you will end up with these 3 terms here, right? Negative y times y squared, negative y times 5y, negative y times 4. That's what I have written here. And then in green, I have the next 3 terms when you multiply them by 3. So I'm showing my work in this line. I didn't have enough space, so I just did it in 2 colors. And then you need to remember the exponent rule for when you're multiplying terms. What do you do with the exponents, right? You're going to add them together. So it's 1 plus 2, which is 3, 1 plus 1, which is the 2, and so on. Okay, and then in the last step, you just take a look and see if there are any that have the same ending. And we can see that there's a y cubed here and another y cubed, so you can add those together to get 8. And then for the y squared, we have a negative 5y squared and a negative 6y squared. Add those together. Negative 5 plus negative 6 is negative 11. And then the last one is negative 4 plus 3y, which is negative 1y. So you're going to need to show your steps for these questions, as always. And then there's a word problem, and then a couple more word problems down here. All right, check out our new Google Classroom. If you need some help, make sure that you've joined. I sent an email out with the information. There will be 7 student helpers that can help you with some of these questions if you're having a bit of trouble. All right, good luck.